So I'm going to pivot straight to our main topic, which is jumping into more Activision Blizzard nonsense. So let's see. Brief go over of Activision Blizzard stuff for folks who might not know anything of what's going on. So Activision Blizzard has been in hot water for basically an egregious workplace culture that's many have said has basically been like drenched in alcoholism, sexual assault from executive employees down to the regular employees on a regular basis, basically for the past like 10 years plus. Employees have, reported stuff to HR, and HR actively says like, oh, well, that's not, they were just joking around or they're just having fun, blah, blah, blah. And all this other, stupid bullshit. That's not the job of what, HR is supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be looking out for the employees. And that's absolutely what they haven't been doing for a very long time. Activision has responded, in not at all the right way. Basically saying like, they're under investigation from like under legal investigation for this behavior. They've like sent messages of like, oh, well, we're being misrepresented. And, these things are, long happened way in the past and XYZ and blah, blah, blah. And, employees themselves who are currently working at Activision have corroborated that, everything that these reports are saying about the company's behavior is accurate. And that's, this is the existence that these employees are living. So, all that said, like, basically Activision is just trying to shove all this stuff under the rug, so to speak, and not acknowledge any of the things that have been going down. In addition to their frankly bullshit behavior, they recently fired 30% of their Raven QA team after asking people of that team to relocate for work. I believe it was to Wisconsin, promising that they were working on an updated wage agreement and that they were going to negotiate, more pay for the employees and like all that sorts of stuff. And generally help everybody get to a better place. What's actually happened is they knew like, oh, I think, most of that team works on Battlefield, if I remember correctly. And they were like, oh, well, this game makes, however million, $1 million a day or $1.2 million a day or something like that. And like end of the quarter is coming up. We want to make numbers look nicer. So best way to do that is just like, oh, well, this game's been out for a while. So just roll some people off. And so you've already asked these people to upheave their lives, to move to a new place under the guise that you're going to pay them more money. And they just up and fired them, not because they were underperforming. For all the employees that were let go, none of them had in any official statement. They were all said to or let know that performance was not a factor in why they were let go. So these are all people who are doing what they're supposed to do. They're experienced professionals, throwing down, getting work done, and supporting the game that they were hired to support. And they're just let go for a completely arbitrary reason, which is just because they just don't want to pay them or whatever, at the end of the year. And there's other people, like they're doing these meetings one by one. So there's more of the other employees have no idea, like, oh, wait, are we still on the chopping block? So being in this situation, other Raven QA employees are walking out in solidarity alongside the QA workers, of that area, but also Activision QA workers from Texas and Minnesota for the unfair treatment that their coworkers are experiencing, and are willing to do so, quote unquote, indefinitely. So Activision has had other walkouts go on this past year, which have been like for, everybody leave for the day or whatever, and you just all halt work. But these folks are saying like, yo, like, this is it. Like, I'll be gone as long as it takes me to be gone. And additionally, yeah, this one I was super excited about. Employees at Activision are talking about unionizing in order to actually make their voices heard and have more substantial power as a unified entity, rather than kind of being disconnected. The more knowledge that the collective has, and the more that you can agree upon one singular goal, and the more people you have backing it, the better for everybody. In the game design community, my best understanding is that most of the time folks, if they're mistreated, they're just like, screw this, and they throw up their hands and they go and they make their own indie game dev studio, which is on one hand great, but it never solves the problem of there are still these people who don't have the like socioeconomic standing to fuck off and go make a new game studio, or they can't move from where they are to where you would need to be to do so. The whole work from home thing has only kind of fallen into the regular tech space at large, more so since the pandemic, as a demand of that experience. So previously people would just kind of say, screw it, I'll make my own game dev studio, but that never solved the problem. So now we're kind of in a space where in a lot of the dirty laundry, for lack of a better term, of all these different companies is starting to come up, and more people, especially who work at these companies, because it's not necessarily to say that quitting is your first solution to the problem, but you want to help everybody. If you're able to and you want to help everybody else around you, then unionizing is the way to do that, because you can make things better for yourself, but also for all of your neighbors at the same time. So for me, that was something that was really exciting to read. And if I could, just go around to various companies and motivate people to unionize, that'd be a dream job for myself. But getting back into the Activision Blizzard stuff, after or as employees started to talk more about wanting to unionize, Activision executive and former Trump administration member Brian Belladio sent a basically cookie cutter union busting email to the staff, basically, and I'll read some excerpts of it just to kind of get some points across. But basically, it's like the standard stuff of like, oh yeah, like he makes a comment like, oh, of course we support your decision to like join a union, but maybe you should think about what that really means. Like wink, wink, of like, if you join, as if to threaten of like, oh, if you join the union, we'll just like fire you before you sign on the dotted line, or if you choose to sign on the dotted line or what have you. Let me grab a little excerpt here. This is a bit from Activision, or sorry, not Activision. Sorry, from Kotaku. Whoops. I got to hit the right button so it shows up on screen. But there we go. Oh, wait, that's not readable. Hopefully that's readable. Let's check the stream. Kind of, sort of. Well, here we go. But this bit here, because this is where he comments on this. This little bit up here, not to pull it out of completely out of context. It's just kind of the regular Activision fluff that people are saying, like, oh yeah, we're dedicated to diversity and inclusion, et cetera, blah blah blah. Even though we're not doing any of that and haven't been doing it for a very, very long time, as all of you employees who work here well know. But in any case, as you may have seen yesterday, where there was a communication supported by the Communication Workers of America that asked employees to sign and submit union authorization cards. I want to be clear about this. In bold, the leadership of Activision Blizzard supports your right under the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, to make your own decision about whether to join or not join a union. Which basically is like, hey, I have to say in this email, because my lawyer probably dictated it to me, that I need to say it in clear, not uncertain terms, that I support this because I'm legally required to do it. But then he goes on to say, as you make this decision for your future, we ask only that you take the time to consider the consequences of your signature on the binding legal document presented to you by the CWA. Once you sign that document, you will have signed over the CWA the exclusive right to, quote unquote, represent you for the purposes of collective bargaining concerning all terms and conditions of employment. This means the ability to negotiate your own working conditions will be turned over to CWA, just as the document says. It's like, yeah, that's what a union's supposed to do. It means that they'll go to bat for you so that you're not stuck doing it by yourself against a massive corporation with comparatively infinite power to yourself. Like, that's what it means. That's what it does. Like, this is just like regular, flavor crap of like, oh man, you don't want people speaking on your behalf and making decisions for you or whatever. That's not cool. That's not fun. Like, come on. Like, he as a previous Trump administration individual who had been called a bully before, like, this is more or less what I would expect somebody with that reputation who's hired by Activision specifically to manage this kind of culture, is one that this individual would not at all be, a stranger to this type of work environment. So, I'm not surprised at all by Activision, but like, I am angered to see them constantly choosing the wrong option. There's many different choices and there's many different options, and they just are consistently picking the wrong ones. And I really hope that, enough of the like shareholders and so forth are able to kick out the executive board people who are making these kind of decisions and like allowing this kind of culture to propagate. Whether that happens through, the shareholders kicking out the board members, or rather it happens through legal proceedings that hold individual executives accountable, or the company as a whole that costs them a whole bunch of money, and then the shareholders decide to do it. Whichever it ends up like, I'm sure, hopefully, I hope that it'll be resolved in an amicable way to the benefit of the employees. And to the benefit of like the culture of game designers as a whole. This kind of change, like the kind of stuff that we're going through right now, shouldn't just be, oh well, that's just Activision. Like, these are problems. Like, they might be one of the loudest situations that we're talking about right now. But this kind of stuff like isn't exclusive just to them. Like, these are cultural problems in gaming that need to be addressed. And, I'm a firm proponent of like, any business entity or of workers should have a union, whether as the individual, whether you choose to be a part of it or not is, up to you. But ultimately, like, the unions exist for a reason. If you're not super familiar with, U.S. history and unions, like, go look it up. It's a very violent past. There's a reason that we have them. They work, they can work very well. If you want to be a part of it, I prefer that people have the option to. If you choose not to be a part of it, then that's okay. If you decide it's not the right thing for you, but having the option there is better than not, because if you don't have it, you got to fight for it. And that's what people are doing right now.